Hi, welcome back if you're new here. My name is Mina and today's video is going to be something that I've done. I believe this is the third episode that we're doing of this video series, which is funny that I said series because as you can tell by the title, we are back again to finish the series that I'm in the middle of, and I think this time will be the time that I actually do finish the entire list. Not the entirety of the list because I did some research. We have the ones that have the asterisks, the little star next to them. These are the ones that are still ongoing, that I will not be reading until they are finished. Some of them I will be continuing on with them as the books release, like the Crimson Moth series, the Lakefront Billionaires, the Kinks of Sin. Those are ones that I typically read every year when the next book in the series comes out. Those are not ones that I'm gonna be worried about finishing in this series. This is just for the ones that are absolutely finished and have no more coming out in that series. And for this video we have Villains by V.E. Schwab, The Hunger Games, Foul Lady Fortune, and we have Addicted to You and the Calloway Sisters series, and we have the Chestnut Spring series. Those are the books that we're going to be reading in this video. Those are the series that we're going to be finishing in this video, just to do like one last final sprint before I can start the new series that I want to start. And we're going to be starting with none other than The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because this one is the only book in the Hunger Games series that I haven't read, and I don't want to reread the entirety of the series because I know what happens in those series. The only reason why I reread the specific series that I've reread in the beginning, like the first book of the series in the other videos, is because I don't remember what happens in the series or in the plot to continue on. But with these, I obviously know everything that's gone on in the series because it's the Hunger Games and everybody knows about them. So I don't feel like I need to reread any of the Hunger Games books. If I do reread them, it would be because I want to, not because I have to. And for this video, so just to make it easier on me and on you, so you don't have to watch me reread the rest of the Hunger Games series, that could be a video on its own for a different time. I'm just going to read this. I've already seen the movie, so I technically already kind of know what happens in this book, but I heard that the book is actually much better and that it shows you a lot more of what Snow is like as a person and what his intentions are and what his inner dialogue is. So I'm very, very excited. I've been meaning to read this for a very long time. It's been on my TBR for a very long time. Let's go. With the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I'm on page 268 on chapter 18, and I am a little bit over halfway. I am really enjoying this. I think it's a lot like the movie, except with this you get to see the inner thoughts of Snow and how really just manipulative and how narcissistic he is, and we just get to watch him like basically find what's good for him. He doesn't really care about anyone else. I think in the movie that was kind of glossed over a little bit because you don't really get to see his inner monologue, but in here you absolutely get to see his inner monologue, and it's so full of just him thinking about himself and like looking at other people in disgust, looking at them as if they're less than him because they have less, or if they're from like the districts, he looks at them as if they're less. It makes a lot more sense why he ended up being the President Snow that we know from the actual Hunger Games books, because reading about him in here, I can definitely see where that transition happened and how it happened. It's much easier to dislike him when he's not being played by Tom Blythe. I will say that. I'm really enjoying it. It feels good to be back in a Hunger Games world, and I'm so excited for Haymitch's book. So I will probably be finishing this tomorrow, and then I can give you my rating and we can move on. But I really am so happy to be back in this world. Suzanne Collins, the woman that she is, and I just adore how she writes a world and a universe and just sucks you in from the very beginning. And the only thing I don't like about this is the way that the lyrics are written. I don't really care for them, to be honest. I didn't like them in the movie either, so I don't really care for the lyrics. I didn't want a musical book, so with that being said, that's the only thing that I find annoying about this book. But other than that, I'm really enjoying it, loving being back in Suzanne Collins' brain and getting to follow around another character in the Hunger Games verse. Have finished with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I remembered the title this time. I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really entertaining. It was a lot similar to the movie, but I think this was done very brilliantly because you can see, like, it's the little things that happen where you get to see how Snow thinks about things. Like, he thinks if he's not really thinking about the safety of Lucy Gray, he's literally just thinking about his own wins and how he can get himself higher and higher, snow lands on top, all of that stuff. He is very selfish, very narcissistic. It was so maddening to read about him because as evil as he is in the movie, I think I forgot how evil he is because then he was blonde and had the buzz cut and I stopped thinking. When it's Tom Blythe playing him, I stop thinking immediately and all I see is Tom Blythe. But reading this book and not imagining Tom Blythe and instead thinking about him as the President Snow that's in the first 3 books, that's a different story. I love Suzanne Collins and I will always read everything that she writes. The only thing, like I said, that I didn't like about this book is the fact that we got to see the lyrics of the songs. I'm not really a fan of that. I don't really care for the music, to be honest. All I cared about was the actual story and getting to see Snow go from the beginning of this book to the end of this book and getting to see Lucy Gray and like the Lucy Gray's like scene that happened in the movie. Watching it or like reading about it happen in here is so different and I just loved it so much. And I'm so glad that I started this video with this because honestly, I don't think there could have been any other thing that I could have started this video with that would have been better than this. We get to cross it off the list. I can't see because I don't have my contacts in, so another one done. The Vicious world. This is consisting of Vicious, a comic novella in the middle, and then Vengeful, which I have read this book obviously, but I've never read the middle novella and I've never read the Vengeful book either. And I've heard that it's supposed to be a trilogy, but the talk about the trilogy has been going on for years and there is no third book so far. But I remember reading this when I was like 18, 19, or maybe before then, and absolutely adoring it and loving it and enjoying it so much. I love these characters and I think about them so often. This was my introduction to V.E. Schwab, and I love everything that she writes, and I love the character specifically in this series, and I love the way that she writes and I love the way that she created this world, and I'm so excited to finally get back into this world. I'm very excited to get into it and get back into this world and get back into V.E. Schwab's writing, because the last book that I read by her was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that one made me cry and adore her so much more. And so I'm very excited to get back into this and finally finish it and get to know what happens. And finished Vicious by V.E. Schwab earlier today, and I literally just finished it like a couple of hours ago. I had a longer shift than usual, so I just ended up reading a lot more than I usually do, and I understand why I really liked this one. I read this in 2015, so pretty much almost 10 years ago at this point, and I really remember adoring this so much, and I remember loving the story so incredibly much. I really adored the way that this book was written, the way that V.E. Schwab writes a story and like describes Eli and Victor, and just how just like morally difficult it is to pick which side you're on. It's basically about these two best friends who do experimentation and try to themselves, and they end up getting powers because they're both working in this like hero extraordinary universe where superpowers exist and you can either use them for good or for evil. One of them ends up using it for evil, one of them ends up being a hero, and they basically beef for their entire lives after that. Really adored this one, but the problem is that I don't think I'm still interested in the story to the point where I want to continue on with the rest of it. While I loved this when I was 17, 18 years old, I don't think I love it to the point now where I want to finish it and really like try and like get back into this world. So as I mentioned, this is a trilogy, maybe duology, with this little graphic novel. I think I'm gonna be done with this. I don't think I'm gonna continue on with the rest of this because I feel like I am not interested in the story enough to really see myself continuing on with another novel, like graphic novel, and then finishing another like 400, 500 page book. This one is a lot bigger than the first one, 480 pages. So it's literally almost 500 pages. I don't see myself wanting to do that to myself because I just have a lot more series that I'm a lot more interested in and that I want to get to. So I don't want to continue on like forcing myself to read stuff that I don't want to read, if that makes any sort of sense to anybody. So I'm just gonna cross it off. I'm gonna screen record myself crossing it off of the list because my phone is my flashlight right now. I don't have a ring light, so I'm using my flashlight on my phone. Maybe I'll get back to it in the future, but I highly doubt that, just because, like I said, there are so many other series that I would prefer to get to that I am much more excited for than this one, even though I really still love the first book and I still definitely would recommend it if this idea sounds interesting at all to you. I feel like if you loved Renegades, the Renegade series by Marissa Meyer, I think that's her name, I think you would really, really enjoy this one. I don't think this is for my reading taste anymore, which is okay because reading tastes change and we grow and we change our minds about things, and that's totally acceptable and totally fine, and nobody can say anything else about that. I have figured out officially what I want to read for my next series for this video. I did end up removing some of the series that I wanted to read because some of them I feel like have been on my TBR for years and years, and I don't see myself being really all that interested in reading them because they might have interested me back then, but I don't think they interest me now, and the idea of them is not really selling it for me. So I did end up removing a couple of series from that list, so at least we got a little bit shorter as well. So the next series I'm going to be reading is none other than the Knock 'Em Out series by Lucy Score, and I read the first book in a different video. I believe I read it for the TikTok most hyped books, like way in the beginning of my channel, so I don't think anybody even saw that video, really, honestly. I did end up reading that one and I read it in a very, very quick sitting. I really adored it, really enjoyed it. I loved the characters and the story, and I love me a good romance, and Lucy Score really knows how to write a romance, so I definitely wanted to finish the Knock 'Em Out series. The next book that I will be reading for that series is going to be Things We Hide from the Light. This is the brother of the guy in Things We Never Got Over, and I am really, really excited because I tend to fly through these books, and though they look huge, like this one is, what, 560 pages, 570 pages, but I tend to read through them very, very quickly like I do with Lauren Asher's works, because honestly, Love Redesigned is ginormous, and I finished that one in one sitting as well, or in two sittings if I'm not mistaken. So I will be finishing this probably very, very quickly, and then we can go into the third book because this is a trilogy, and it's a small town trilogy. More grown-up characters, so they are not in their 20s. I believe character in the first book was 40, so they're a little bit older, but I really enjoyed the series, and I hope I don't end up getting sick of it by the third book. So very, very excited. This has been on my TBR since the beginning of the year, and I'm very excited to finally get to it and get to see what the story's about. I have started and finished Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score, which is the second book in the Knock 'Em Out series. This is about Nash, who is the brother of Knox from the first book in this trilogy, and this is the brother who is the police officer, and in the first book he gets shot, and in this book we see him basically following the consequences of him getting shot and how the PTSD is like
affecting him and how he's pretty much like lost all of his golden retriever energy, because he used to be the golden retriever, like charming guy, southern man, and he's lost it now because he has so much PTSD from being shot. And we just follow him along as he meets Lena, which is Knox's best friend and ex-girlfriend, his brother from the first book. Lena is an undercover like insurance investigator who is looking for this car that the man who shot Knox stole in the first book. So this is the story of the two of them, and it is kind of like an enemies to lovers, reluctant lovers type of situation where the girl does not want to be in the relationship because she's scared, but the man is like thinking that she can revive him and bring him back to life, which she kind of does. And we just follow the story, and this is the best found family trope in this entire like trilogy situation. I really enjoyed this. I don't know how much I want to rate it. I think I want to give it a 4 stars. I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first one, but I did love seeing Knox and Naomi from the first book, and now getting to know Nash and Lena, and I adored them so much and really enjoyed the story. It's a very fast-paced, very easy to get lost into. I finished it in 2 days, which this book is almost 600 pages, so that's kind of crazy, but I really liked it. It's really easy to read. Like I say, Lucy Score's books don't really intimidate me as much because I just know that I'm gonna fly through them and read them in the span of a couple of days. So I think I'm gonna settle on 4 stars. Really liked it, or like a 4.25. Really liked it, really enjoyed it. Don't think it's my favorite just because it was kind of really long. The last book in this trilogy, which is Things We Left Behind, and this is the story of Lucien and Sloane, I believe. Lucien is like this dark, mysterious character that we meet over the last 2 books, and he's like the bad boy of the town. He's like really against the law. He does all these illegal things. Sloane is the librarian of the town, and I believe from what we understand from the other 2 books that I've read so far is that they had a thing when they were in high school, but then now they hate each other, so it's going to be an enemies to lovers. I'm very excited because also in the like acknowledgements of this one, Lucy Score says that this book is going to be very steamy, and I'm very excited for that because I love the steamy scenes that Lucy Score writes. I think she writes a very good romance that is so easy to get lost into. I believe this feels a little smaller than the one I just read. I don't know how many pages it is though. It's 581. Okay, so it's a couple of pages more than this one. I'm telling you, once I finish this one, I'm gonna feel so accomplished. I am sure I will be able to fly through this. With Things We Left Behind, and this is the last book in the Knock 'Em Out trilogy. It's kind of like a second chance romance, friends to enemies to lovers. I gave this one 5 stars. I think this one is absolutely my favorite out of all of the books in the Knock 'Em Out series. I love a good, morally gray, complicated character, and he is exactly that. If you love a morally gray villain character that's actually not a villain but is seen as the villain, then I think you would really enjoy this one. Like I said, with these, you don't really have to read all of them to get the story, you could just read this one alone and things would be fine, or you could just read this alone or the first one alone. You don't have to read all three of them, but it would probably be better because the epilogues and the end of this one were so cute because you got to know all of the characters from the first book and the second book, and then you get to see them in this book and get to see the happily ever after that all the couples get. And yeah, like I said, this one is 5 stars. Really, really adored it. I'm definitely going to be missing this series because it's definitely become one of my favorite series of all time. And then the next series that I will be finishing, let me get it. It's gonna be the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver. I read the first book. I don't remember what I read it for, which video it was, but I do remember that I read it and I absolutely adored it. In this series, we have Heartless, Powerless, Reckless, which is everybody's favorite book from what I know. The final one, which is Hopeless, and this one I believe is a fake fiance, marriage of convenience type. So I'm gonna start with Heartless. Don't know what this is about. I think this is a grumpy sunshine, if I'm not mistaken. I adore small town romances. Finished with Heartless by Elsie Silver, which is the second book in the Chestnut Springs series. This is a single dad nanny trope. We follow Cade, which is the brother of Rhett from the first book, and he needs a nanny for the summer, and Summer, the main character from the first book, who ends up with Rhett, is sick of Cade basically dragging his ass and not wanting to hire anybody because he doesn't think anybody's good enough for his son, which is understandable, his 5-year-old son. So Summer is so pissed off and she's so annoyed with everything, and so she ends up hiring her friend, and then we go from there. We just watch them fall in love. It's like a can't be with you but I want to be with you, and he's my employer, technically my boss, and I really don't know if I should be doing this, and he's like a very like grumpy sunshine. We're talking like he's the eldest, and so he's very like responsible. His mother died when he was very, very young, and so he shouldered a lot of the responsibility of being like, okay, I gotta take care of my siblings, I gotta take care of my father, I must get things done that need to get done, that now we don't have a mother and I have to do all these things. So he grew up way too early. The story was so good and I gave it 5 stars. I'm so sorry. I don't even like a single father trope, but this book changed my mind. This book changed my mind. It was so funny. I found myself giggling multiple times about this book. This is so, so funny. I think this might be my favorite so far. I like it even better than the first one. Definitely 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. Really loved it. Definitely recommend it. You could read this one without reading the first book, but I also recommend the first book because the first book I gave like 4.25 stars to, if I'm remembering correctly. You're moving on to the next book in the series, which is Powerless, and I believe this one follows Sloane and Jasper. I believe this one is like she's engaged to someone else, but he loves her, and he's always loved her for like most of his life, and she has loved him. From what we get glimpses of them in this book, and we can see that she kind of feels something for him, but they're not together. So I'm really, really interested to see where the story goes. So excited, so freaking excited.
started today with Powerless, and I also finished it all at once. It says following the story of Jasper, who is kind of the adopted brother to the Eaton boys, and Sloane, who is his best friend. So it's a childhood best friends to lovers story, like a second chance romance, really, but not really. Jasper grew up in this like very toxic environment, and the Eaton boys take him in, and that's when Sloane meets him because Sloane is best friends with their sister, and we just follow their story from there. It's about Sloane, who is engaged to this guy who is a proper douchebag, like the worst you can think is what he is, and she ends up becoming a runaway bride with Jasper when he saves her with the rest of the Eaton boys and the Eaton girls. And I really adored this book. I gave it 4.25 stars. I really had so much fun reading this. I think Elsie Silver just keeps getting better and better with the rest of her books, because I loved this one, but I don't think it outdoes Cade and Willa, because I love Cade and Willa so much. But I think the next two are probably going to do it for me, because I think the next one I'm reading, which is going to be Reckless, which is Theo's story, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Theo, who is the prodigy of Rhett from the first book, who is the bull rider, the famous bull rider. This one follows Theo and Winter, who is the sister of Summer. What I know of this one is that Winter is married to this man who is really just horrendous and horrible to her, and Theo, oh my god, we got a glimpse of them in this book, and I finally got to the scene that everybody talks about if you know, you know. If you've read these, you know. I am so glad that I finally got to them, because they are so much better than I thought it would be, and that's why I think that I'm actually gonna really adore this one even more. I am so excited to read about Theo, because I think he's just going to be over the top ridiculous, because I read about him in this one, and the one scene we have of him in Winter is just so hysterical and so funny, and I just really like him. He is going to be definitely one of my favorites, I think. And this one is about Winter, who is, like I said, married to this horrendous man, and Theo, who is infatuated by her and thinks he's already in love with her after meeting her after she moves to Chestnut Springs. So yeah, I'm very excited for this one. Really liked this one. I love a good best friends to lovers story. I liked Sloane. I liked Jasper. Jasper is like that guy, you know, like every man of the Eaton boys so far has been that man. And so I really liked this one. Really adored it. Like I said, 4.25, but definitely not my favorite of the entire series so far. Like I said, my favorite as of right now continues to be the one before it with Willa and Cade, but this just might take the cake. And then the next one after this, I believe, is going to be Beau's story, who is also really heavily mentioned in this book. He is the one who gets deployed. He is the brother who is on deployment for most of the books that we read, and something happens to him in this book that kind of like makes him a shell of who he used to be. So I'm really excited to get to his story, and I think that one is going to be the last one, but very excited for this one. I don't know. She seems like she can't stand him, and he is just over the top, like in love with her head over heels already, and he's barely just met her. So I'm very excited. I think this is gonna make me really just giggle and kick my feet. This one is 443 pages. Very excited for it, and this is the one that I'm going to start next. I'm going to be so sad. I was thinking this to myself earlier today when I was reading this one, is that I'm going to be so incredibly sad when I finish them, because I'm having so much fun reading them, but then that just means that I can move on into the Rose Hill series and get to see what all the hype is about, because everybody's talking about them and I want to know what they're about. So very excited. Very good reading day. I finished this one in one day, which is not hard, because these are just so fun and so easy to read. If you really like put your mind to it and you sit down, then you could probably potentially finish them in one go, you know, which is not what I want to do, but also because I'm filming this video, I'm reading them a little bit faster. But if it were up to me and I wasn't filming any videos, I would take my time with these, just because I'm enjoying them so much, and I'm going to miss like being in this world and reading them for the first time, if that makes any sense to anybody. But yeah, this one is next. I'm holding it upside down. This one's next, and I will see you when I pick it up. You can boo me as much as you want, but I have decided to end this video here, because honestly, I feel like there's already way too much footage. As I'm editing this video right now, before the outro, this video is like 30 something minutes, and so I felt like maybe I should just end it here, and then we'll pick up in another video with the rest of the Chestnut Spring series and everything else that I wanted to read in this video, because honestly, I've spent like 3 weeks now at this point filming this video, and I did not know how much footage I had, because I didn't start editing it until recently, and I started filming it like
way back. I think when I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, it was maybe October or September, so it was a very long while of me just filming this in like sections until the end of this video, when I dedicated a whole 2 weeks to filming this video, or 3 weeks. So for that reason, I apologize for splitting this video in half, but the next installment of this video will have the rest of the series that I still have left on the list, but unfortunately I will not be able to cross off Chestnut Springs or the rest of the books that are on that list until the next installment of this video series. So I hope you watch the next installment of this video series because it gets really interesting after this. I really had a lot of fun with this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I'm sorry for cutting it in half. I really feel so bad, and I was going to put the rest of Chestnut Springs in this video. With the amount of footage that I had just from Reckless and Hopeless alone, it was a lot. So I felt like the best logical explanation, because no one wants to watch a 15-minute video, I am going to be putting it in the next installment, which will be the last installment for real this time. I apologize. I know. Stone me, shun me, do whatever you need to do. But I am so glad that I got to do this video because I had a lot of fun. Chestnut Springs is probably my favorite series that I've read in recent times, so I hope you stick around to see my reaction for the last 2 books in the series. And with that being said, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. I hope you have the very best day. Treat yourself to something nice, and I'll see you guys again next week with another video. Goodbye!